Well, down to the wire here, the last speaker of the day. Thank you all so much for being here. And it's interesting how, I think Gerhard said it earlier, we all have overcome diversity. We've all had things in our lives. We've all had to change our mindset in order to be good leaders, in order to be good salespeople, in order to be good parents, and just to be good people. We have to change our mindset. But I want you to think about, what are your destructive mindsets? We all have them. Think about it. What do you go back to? What's your default destructive mindset that you go back to? Our next speaker will discuss what he calls the 7 self-destructive mindsets and why these mindsets plague our salespeople and us, right? And what we can do about it. How does he know? Well, he's dealt with a few of these destructive mindsets himself. But I'll let him tell you about that. Please welcome Matthew Pollard.
Thanks very much. That was a wonderful welcome for somebody from all the way on the other side of the world, another person from Australia. So I'm going to do my best to live up to that warm welcome. And I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about Wendy. So I'm just going to grab the pointer from over here. So Wendy was a CEO of a company called the Beijing Language Academy. And predominantly her focus was teaching people Mandarin. And for the longest time, her business had been prospering. And then all of a sudden, so many entrants had started to come into Los Angeles where her business was located. And they wanted to start their businesses there. People coming directly from China, other people coming from other states of the US. And they were willing to cut their prices to the absolute bone just so that they could get their first customers. And what Wendy started to notice was all of a sudden she was starting to lose some of the people she was teaching Mandarin to, some adults, some children, because she was constantly fighting about the fact that she was worth the extra money because she was charging more. Now, I'm sure that a lot of businesses, a lot of the people out, a lot of you guys have probably tried to get your first customers in the past, and you're willing to cut prices a little bit at the start. So many people were doing this to Wendy that she was struggling to get $50 to $80 an hour. So she came to me with the problem of, how do I compete with all of these new entrants? And my response to Wendy was that I don't want to teach you how to compete with these new entrants. I want to teach you how to avoid the battle altogether. So with Wendy, what we noticed was that while she taught a lot of children and a lot of adults, there were 2 clients in particular that she helped, more specifically with a few additional things. The first one was that she helped executives that were being relocated over to China understand the concept of galaxy. Now, galaxy to us might mean things that happen in outer space. But in China, a direct comparison would be our version of rapport. However, the concept of galaxy in China is a building of a relationship over a long period of time. See, in China, they want to go out to dinner with you 5, 6, 7 times. They want to know all about your family before they even want to speak business with you at all. They'll probably want to see you drunk over karaoke just to see what kind of person you are. This is what happens in China, because the difference is, while in the Western world, we may go out to 1 meeting, maybe 2 meetings, maybe we'll go to a series of meetings over a month if the client's really dragging their heels on making a decision. But we're talking 12 to 24-month contracts. In China, they're talking 50 to 100-year deals. This is longer than a lot of people's lifetimes. So they want to know what kind of person they're getting into bed with. And Wendy really helped these 2 clients understand that. The next thing she helped them understand was the difference between e-commerce in China and e-commerce in the Western world. And the third one, probably the most important, is helping them understand the differences or the must for respect in China. See, she helped them understand the importance of accent reduction. See, China's a different world, and when somebody hands you a business card, which I'm sure a lot of people here have received business cards today, and we put them in our pocket and continue the conversation. In China, you have to hold the card, look at the card, respect the card, bow, and then put it into your card case. Anything less than that, you may as well not do business in China. They'll see it as disrespectful, and you're out of the game. There is no sale to be made. So an executive not understanding these things would actually result in a very poor performing person being moved over to China. So the next thing with accent reduction is if they didn't understand the importance of not completely emulating the accent of somebody that was local, but at least being perceived as trying, then it would be seen as disrespectful, and therefore they don't want to do business with someone like that. So Wendy came to, I spoke to Wendy, and we went right through exactly what she did. And I said, these people, you're helping them with much more than just language. Wendy, what are you helping them with? She didn't know. Her response to me was, well, I'm just helping them with a couple of little things that they need to know, otherwise they're going to get there and they'll fail. See, just like a lot of businesses, she was stuck in her functional skill. She perceived herself about what she did, not the value that she provided. I said, Wendy, is it fair to assume that as a result of working with these two executives, you're helping them become more successful in China? And she said to me, you know what, that's exactly what I do. We rebranded her to the China Success Institute. Everyone that worked for her became China Success coaches. And we launched the China Success Intensive. The China Success Intensive was a 5-week program for the executive, any spouse, and any children associated with the executive that was being relocated to China. Now, why the executive and why the spouse and the children? Well, simply, obviously you can charge a lot more if you include the spouse and the children. But more importantly, if the spouse and the children were not happy in China, then the executive was going to constantly be called home. They would have to constantly deal with problems of acting out children, perhaps, or an unhappy husband or wife. So it was vitally important that everybody was successful in China. The China Success Intensive was a $30,000 program that ran for 5 weeks. So we've gone from struggling to charge $50 to $80 an hour, fighting to get every single customer and fighting purely on price, to a $30,000 program that runs for 5 weeks. We didn't focus on hard selling this. We went and spoke to a few immigration agents. Now, for those that don't know what an immigration agent is somebody you go to when you want to work in China, or if an Australian like me wants to work in the US. We go to an immigration agent and we get a visa. They get a few $1,000s for doing this, and it takes a lot of time and there's a lot of bureaucracy. She gave them $3,000 for at the end of the conversation when they got the visa, they would just say, so obviously you're going off to China. I just wanted to double check that you've done the preparation required to be successful in China. And they would respond, yes, I'm learning Mandarin. And they said, no, about truly being successful in China. And they would give them a couple of quick examples. And then they would say, I think you need to speak to the China Success Coach. They made a $3,000 commission from suggesting it. And Wendy made $27,000 with no hard sell whatsoever. That is the power of a differentiated and unified message. For Wendy, it was China Success. For myself, I'm a business coach. I'm a sales systemization expert. I'm a niche marketing specialist. I'm a branding strategist. I'm so many things it's confusing. I'm the rapid growth guy. I help organizations, large and small, obtain rapid growth. The simplicity of a message gets you to be heard in a crowded market. If Wendy had have started with sales, she would have already lost. With many organizations, we continually fight hard to gain clients, and we learn new skills, which serve us well. But if we can start with step 1, we can be a lot more successful. Customers are getting more educated. They know how to do their own research these days. They even know how to buy without us. If we don't learn to think smarter and adapt, we're going to get lost in the crowded market. And that's what we want to avoid. Now, I know what a lot of people are thinking. I'm a great salesperson. I have great salespeople. I have salespeople that can sell ice to Eskimos. But ask yourself, if you've got a salesperson that can sell ice to Eskimos, or you're a salesperson that can do so yourself, wouldn't you sell more selling blankets instead? That's what our focus is. Here's an example of a person that had 30 years experience at Oracle. He'd always earned well over $250,000 a year. He decided that he wanted to go out into business for himself. And he decided, so that he didn't risk failure, he bought a Sandler franchise. Over a very short period, he struggled with a few things. The first one was he didn't know how to define himself separate from Sandler. He didn't know how to brand himself because the branding and the marketing had already always been done for him. We called him the sales simplification specialist. And we worked out what his packages would be. And we looked at what his pricing was and discovered he was well undercharging. Within 2 weeks, his income increased by 300%. And he didn't have to work any harder. Customers just liked the message more and were willing to pay a premium for it. He finally got himself out of the commodity price market. So what I want you to think about is what are the benefits that you provide? And then what is the higher level benefit of this? Now, for a lot of people, the core thing you're going to struggle with there is getting outside your functional skill. So on the website for the summit, there is a 5-step strategy that I give away that you guys can download, and it'll give you a logical process that you can use that'll help you work through this. So let's talk about niche marketing. People commonly say to me when I say you should focus on a niche, hang on a second, then I'm missing out. If you're speaking to everybody, you're truly speaking to nobody. And unless you've got the budget of Coca-Cola, it's ridiculously expensive. When I was about 26, I decided I was going to open up a business school. The problem is, nobody trusts a new school. Nobody wants to study at a new school. So I looked at 2 incredibly bad options. The first one was selling to executives, people that had already had a past qualification and wanted to advance their business skills. These people wanted a qualification that any employer would look at and say, wow, you're hired. Definitely not a new school like mine. The second opportunity, another bad opportunity, was looking at high school students looking to want to go to college. And for us, that was another horrible market. Why? We didn't have a fancy football team. We couldn't provide a great, fun environment for people. We didn't have any students yet. And on top of that, again, the same problem with the MBA students. We didn't have a long history that we had grown over hundreds of years to prove to people that they should study with us. What we did, though, is we went looking for a market that would listen to our message and get excited about it. And what we discovered was the market of tradespeople. Now, more specifically, these were tradespeople that worked on a trade site. So if you were building a house, you can imagine plumbers, electricians, carpenters. These were our ideal clients. Why? They left school at year 10. School for them, they hated it. A lot of times they felt let down by school, and because of that they created the message that if you can't do, you teach. This made them feel better about themselves and they went on with their lives. These are the last people that would ever want to go back and study in an educational format. However, if you look at the way that they were educated in their profession, they probably went and did an apprenticeship. They were probably taught through sarcasm and aggression that every time they did something wrong, now they're told off. And they had to quickly fix it or they'd get fired. They didn't enjoy the way they learned. They also, over a period of time, got better and better at what they did and then looked around and realised that everybody around them, not as good as they were, was getting paid exactly the same. So they went out to business for themselves. Then they started hiring people. And of course, they taught their staff members the same as they were taught, through sarcasm and through aggression. They found themselves responsible for all sorts of things that they didn't know about. Budgets and financial plans, marketing and sales, continuous improvement, strategy. They weren't equipped for this. They needed business coaching. The problem was they didn't have the money to afford business coaching. Their businesses weren't doing well. In a lot of cases, they were earning less than what they used to earn when they were an employee. So they wanted business coaching, they couldn't afford it. The message that we came up with was business coaching at a price you can afford. Our school operated like a mastermind group. Every educator was a business coach and was actively out charging business coach rates. Every person that was part of the group A, came to the course because they wanted to learn, and B, it was going to give them the ability to network because there were 20 other people just like them that was in the program. 3,500 students in 3 years. Again, that's rapid growth. Now, of course, we started in the niche of tradespeople. And this is what happens in a lot of businesses. They say, no, but I don't want to just be focused in this one group. This one group it's not big enough for me. I want to sell to the world. We started with tradespeople on trade sites. Then we redefined what the word tradesperson meant. We decided that hairdressers and florists, they were tradespeople too. We signed up nearly 400 hairdressers into educational courses. Then we decided that doctors and lawyers were also functional skill people, tradespeople. They had a great functional skill, how to be a doctor, how to be a lawyer, but they needed to know more about how to run their business. In that 3,500 students, it included 3 of the top premiership, championship football teams, your equivalent of the NFL, Olympic sporting teams, your equivalent of the company was called Harris Scarfe, your equivalent of Macy's, large franchises, the Law Institute of Victoria, and some large medical associations. Yes, we grew the boundaries, but we started off as being successful in one. Everybody is not your customer. As salespeople, we want to sell to everybody. Before it comes to that, as sales managers, we need to define the market. My salespeople, when they first started and they were selling to tradespeople, they knew exactly the problems of their customer. The clients thought we were mind readers because we'd speak to a plumber who said they had no problems, and within a very short period of time, we were suggesting problems that they may have that other people just like them had, and they thought, how could you possibly know this? Yes, these are my problems as well. By defining the market, you make yourself an unbelievable salesperson because you know what they're going to sell. You know what they're going to say before they do. Imagine the job of a salesperson is to charge the mountain. A sales manager's job is to work out which mountain they should charge. So what you need to think about here is, what is your unified message? What is it that differentiates you? And then which unmet need in the market of the clientele that you can help is currently unmet? That is your rapid growth That is the rapid growth place you want to start. So let's talk about sales systemization. Now, looking at me now, most people would probably assume that I was a natural-born salesperson. Perhaps it's easy to assume that anyone that can feel comfortable getting up on stage and talking in front of a group of people must be a natural extrovert. I'm incredibly introverted. When I was in late high school, I had a reading speed of a 6th grader. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And luckily enough, I survived high school. But what I did know is that I needed a year off before I looked at university. What I thought I'd do is I'd hide away inside a real estate agent's office. In the back office, just doing small duties. Please no one notice me, I need a year to rest. Luckily or unluckily, fate had its way, and 4 weeks before Christmas, the company closed down. I had to go and find a job very, very quickly. I didn't come from a very rich family, so I had to work it out. Unlike America, Australia tends to close down from the 20th of December to the 15th of January. So there is no way to get a job at that time, unless you want to take on commission-only sales. I was an introvert. I struggled to talk to my own friends. To give you an example, this was me at 19. That's my sister's wedding. Now, as a brother, I should say that my girlfriend's in the room, so everyone, that was my sister's wedding. Sometimes I forget to say it. At 19, the one thing as a brother that you want to do is you want to be there for your sister. To have that face when I was there for a photographer for her wedding was horrible for me. But that was what I had to deal with. Every time I went into a door and was learning to sell, I knew that they were judging me on A, the fact that I didn't know what to say, and B, the way I looked. The job that I took was selling telecommunications door to door. It took me 93 doors to make my first sale. Now, it was mentioned before that nobody really gets much sales training. I had 5 days of product training. I knew the call rates better than anyone on the planet. I had no idea how to sell. No one taught me. 93 doors of rejection. 93 doors of being told no. 93 doors of wondering what the hell I was doing. On my 93rd door, I finally made a sale. And I remember I was so excited. I'd made about $70. And all of a sudden, things were looking great. Until it occurred to me, I've got to do this again tomorrow. The thought terrified me. I had to find an option. And for me, picking up a Brian Tracy book or a Zig Ziglar book wasn't going to work. I had a reading speed of a 6th grader. It would have taken me 6 months to get through it. For me, the answer was on YouTube. Believe it or not, there's more than just cat videos on YouTube. So I started with learning rapport. Then I worked out qualification questions. Then asking questions to find out what my benefits of my product, how I could link what they needed to the benefits of my product. And on it went for about 6 weeks. Continually learning every night, continually trying new things, seeing what worked, seeing what didn't work. 6 weeks later, I was outselling the best salesperson in the nation for the largest sales and marketing company in the Southern Hemisphere. I got promoted about 7 times in 12 months. And continually, as I got promoted, my pay rate went down and I got more money for everyone else that was selling. Every time I got my pay rate up to a point where I was happy, I got promoted and I had to start again. I went, you know what? I need to go and start it for myself. So I decided I was going to open up a phone shop. Problem was, market was ridiculously saturated. Not only was it saturated, everybody was competing on price. And I decided that was my advantage. There were so many small businesses out there, so many professionals, that while they appreciated the savings they were getting, what they really wanted was if something went wrong, they wanted somebody to fix it really, really quickly. They wanted the service back. They needed the fact that if something went wrong, a person to realise that if their phone's not working, that's the line that calls in with the money. And they wanted it fixed really, really quickly. So we came up with the message of service you can count on. Didn't matter what service provider you went with. As long as you signed up through us, we would handle all your customer service. If you needed a phone dropped out to you because something went wrong, we would do that. If you needed somebody to wait on hold with the service provider for 8 hours to make sure something was fixed, we would do that. Now, of course, we had phone numbers that we could call that meant we didn't have to wait for 8 hours. But the concept of not having to wait on the phone for 8 hours worked really, really well for us. We became, within 3 years, the #1 supplier of business-to-business mobile phones in the country. By year 3, we turned over $4.2 million. Again, that's rapid growth. In 2007, I won the Young Achiever of the Year award. But more importantly, I went from scared to sell to teaching hundreds how to do it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sure, you can learn a lot of things on YouTube. Sure, perhaps you may even be a believer that you don't have to have the gift of the gab. You can actually learn it. But on YouTube, let's look at another case study. I want to introduce you to Nate Boyer. Nate Boyer was a Green Beret. When he left the military, he made a decision. He was going back to school, and he wanted to do something he'd never done before. He was going to play football. He walked onto the field at UT, and he made the team. Now, I'm a new American, so I didn't know how hard this was, but I was assured it's almost impossible. Later down the track, he was signed to the Seattle Seahawks. At age 34, he was 8 years older than the average player, making him the oldest draft pick in history. When he was asked how he learned to snap the football as successfully as he did, that was his key skill, an ability that most people would assume natural. This was his answer. He learned on YouTube and Google. But I'm not here to teach you how to sell. Most people here probably know it and probably advise people on how to sell on a daily basis. What I am here to do is tell you that sales The game of sales has changed. Here's what my primary focus was. Up until just a couple of years ago, if somebody had have asked me what things were most important to drive a business, I would have said exactly what worked with my 5 multi-million-dollar businesses I was responsible for. Cold calling, direct sales reps. Or Gerhard has now assured me that we call them shiny shoes here in the US. This was my focus, and I was really good at it. I was really good at training it. I had, in every business that I had, 20 to 30 call center operators. And when the industry average for telecommunications was 3 to 4 appointments a day, my guys were doing 7 to 8. When the industry average for education was 1 to 2 appointments a day, my people were doing 5 to 6 appointments a day. I was completely focused on sales scripting. And if you hop on entrepreneur.com, you'll see articles I've written absolutely talking about the fact that it is the thing that you need to do. And I don't want to tell you that you shouldn't do that either. Everything I'm about to share with you now, you still need sales scripting. However, this was my strategy. Goals and mindset. Every rapid growth business has to have a starting point of goals and mindset. Differentiated and unified message comes second. Niche market, a willing and wanting audience, third. And then I call it message dissemination. However, here, in my old model, it really is just cold calling and strategic networking. Sales. Website and social media, for me, was an artifact I used to prove that I was still going to be here tomorrow, so you should feel comfortable to give me a big check. It was used like a storefront, a fancy storefront, to show that we were credible, to show that you should feel comfortable to send me money. And my salespeople, obviously. However, it's time for a change of mindset. While direct sales is a wonderful resource to get some runs on the board for a new startup business, for long-term customer acquisition, outbound sales is dead. With the right message and the right strategy, customers now come to you. Customers are actively looking for a message that speaks to them directly. The trick is to use technology to create and point a megaphone in the exact right direction. The rapid growth sales system is technology, strategy, psychology to make your prospects chase you. This is the strategy I used that turned my business 100% inbound in 7 months. Now, I know this model looks a bit complicated. Truth is, there's a lot to learn, and I'm happy to share it with you. There are a key couple of things here that we're going to discuss today. One is that a website is not there to show credibility. It's to drive customers to book appointments with you. But the thing that you must have to make that possible is you must have an evergreen social poster, something that continually puts your content out to the world. The other thing you must have is a strategic following strategy where you're driving the right customers to check out your social profiles so that they can buy off you. All of this is to drive an email address. The email address is what you'll need to do then is send them an email sequence that nurtures them and educates them on the products and services that you offer, that gives them ridiculous amounts of value, that drives them to book a phone call with you. Then enter the sales rep with his sales script or with her sales script. The difference is that they've now contacted you. If they've contacted you, the price goes up. All of a sudden, instead of convincing them that they should listen for a second longer, they're now appreciating the time that you spend with them. This is the power of inbound. You don't need to take my word for it. You can check out my website. There's over 70 testimonials on my website for people that I've worked with that this has worked. You can check out LinkedIn. I think there's another 35 there. Here are some other cool things that it does. This person below me on the left or the right and above me on the other side, this is Jordan. Jordan has the #1 podcast on iTunes. And he and I are always trading places as the most viewed profile on LinkedIn. Why? Because He has a wonderful podcast. I leverage everything on my website to drive traffic to me and my website. In May of this year, I had 184 followers on Twitter. Now I have over 10,000. I have one post that went viral with 3,500 shares just on one post. On another, over 3,000, and there's a couple more just like that. It allowed me to become the number within the website I launched in February this year. As of yesterday, I was listed, I came third for the International Sales Blogger Award. The website's less than 7 months old. It resulted in a podcast that hit new and noteworthy in 3 continents within 24 hours. It allowed for a top trending story on Entrepreneur, over 1 million people coming to that website, and for me to feature on Fox 7 within 12 months of me moving to the United States. If you're wondering whether I sleep, yes, I sleep. My process is 100% automate and move on. There's a lot to learn here, and I would love to teach you about it. However, in 30 minutes, unfortunately, we're not going to get there. However, Gerhard has been nice enough to suggest that for anybody that is interested, he's going to send out an email and welcome people to a webinar where I will take you through exactly what I do. I won't hold back. I'll share it completely with you. So just look out for that email, and hopefully we can start to create rapid growth businesses and systems where you don't have to focus on sales outbound every single second. It comes down to 3 things: differentiation, message unification, niche marketing, and sales systemization. If you don't adapt, you're going to be forgotten. I'm going to take you to a quote of one of your famous presidents. He said, "If I was given 6 hours to cut down a tree, I'd spend 4 hours sharpening the saw." It's time to sharpen the saw. Thank you.